Hello, and welcome back to TRUEsDays. My name is Noah,
And my name is Gavin.
and we're back on the case to discuss Night Country, Part 3. Welcome back to Ennis. That's not what it's called. There's no episode title, so
It's just part
we
one,
have no
part two, part
we have no
three.
intro, so there you go. And
Yeah.
I like to drop those gravelly voices as early as possible.
Mm-hmm.
Where shall we start with Part 3? I have somewhere I kind of want to start because this happened in the interim, and I actually just read about this.
What happened?
Can we talk about something? I want to get your opinion, just from the top, the tippy top. This is from Pajiba.com, articles by Dustin Rolls, and the headline: True Detective creator Nick Pizzolatto doesn't appear to be a fan of Night Country. Okay, and I'm quoting from the article here, and I do want to reiterate this because we've never really been like, oh my god, like he's what we love about this show, and by all accounts, seems like a bit of a tough pill in person. So again, I'm reading from this article, but I don't disagree with some of these opinions. The rumors about Nick Pizzolatto's behavior over the course of his career have not been flattering. He's been known to be insufferable and a pretentious douchebag. So much so that the friction between the writer and HBO may be the reason why he's no longer involved with the series, and why he also ended up negotiating an early exit from his FX deal. I didn't even know he had an FX deal. Kind of seems to have disappeared post season 3.
Yeah, no, I knew he had signed that, and that's kind of like they were talking like, oh, he has an idea for a fourth season. We told him to figure it out, and then they were like, okay, well, he signed with a deal with FX, so like maybe there's something out there. And then we got
this is on X, and he chimed in on the comments, which to begin with is kind of a douchey thing in general, but whatever. Okay. So, certainly did not have any input on the story or anything else. Can't blame me. And then to just fully squash our Makana watch, his follow-up tweet: Matthew doesn't show up, nor would he. Just throws that in there. Okay.
Wow.
Somebody else comments: Night Country is like somebody's memory of a show, and that memory is fading. Okay. And he just commented, ha, like, because apparently he found that funny. And then we also have here, still have the season 1 lore document. Seems this is not him. This is him. He's about to respond to this. Still have the season 1 lore document. It used to be around on Google, talking about how the Tuttles have a local construction business and whatnot. Apparently they fund an Arctic Arctic science research station now. Crying emoji. And then Pizzolatto responded, haha, so stupid. Okay. That was pretty much the end of it. But again, shout out to the author of this article, because his closer after that screen cap is, it's ironic, isn't it, that he would leave that comment on a picture calling back to season 2 of True Detective. These contracts, signatures all over them. Talk about stupid. That's how he concludes the article.
Yeah.
So yeah, Nick P, throwing shade after dude, my personal opinion, I'm like, obviously it's your baby, whatever. The show went beyond. Even in the first season, it was like a war of wills between him and Fukunaga, who is also not a good dude, who's kind of a piece of shit in real life. I don't know if you ever saw any of those things that came out in the last 2 years. Yeah, inappropriate behaviors on sets, young interns, creepy shit, whatever. Not a good guy. Okay. So, yeah. If you want to give any credence to that, feel free.
I mean, I'll say this. So
he comes off like a bitter ex, is what all that shit sounds like to me. I'm just like, and dude, it's just classless to like, you're in the comments section on fucking X. Like,
you have the time to do that? I mean, it must be really busy with your busy schedule with all the new projects you have. To thank you for taking your time out of your day with all the stuff you're
well, it's
making.
also just like, there's clearly a lot of people who are essentially coming to your defense, or like, lifting up season one. I've seen a lot of that thus far, even from some people in the friend group that were unimpressed, deeply unimpressed by the first couple episodes. And
Hmm.
again, I I don't begrudge them, but I also I did clarify a few things that happened in the second episode to them, and they
Hmm.
were like, "Oh, well, that kind of makes me a little more excited." I'm like,
Yeah.
"Yeah, it's there. You just got to keep an eye out for it." But
Hmm.
I think interesting to address, and I bring it up in advance of this episode, which again, we're coming off of us losing our minds over like, oh my God, possible lore connections and like tying it to season one and blah, blah,
Right.
blah, blah, blah. And I think very purposefully, and I liked this about part three quite a bit. We took a big old step back from any of that.
Yep.
And we actually settled into telling our story and our current case and going deeper into it, which is I think what we need to do if you're going to tell a satisfying story that's not beholden or just reaching back to a prior season to get the nostalgia vibes for you,
Right.
it needs to operate on its own terms. So in that respect, I love that we open with a flashback and the
Yep.
introduction of a second timeline.
Hmm.
Very compelling. So we have Navarro going in to arrest Annie. Does she tell her what is she bringing her in for there? Do we know? Or is it just for
No.
operating that place? I was vague on that, but then we have the birthing sequence and all of that. Um, which they had set up that she was a midwife. Um,
Right.
but yeah, and I'm sure if I rewatch the scene, I just like when she first comes in, you're so distracted by the wailing of the pregnant woman in the other room that I was like, wait, oh, that's Annie K. And then I was like, oh, wait, she's here to arrest her. Um, and again, I liked, subtle, they do tag it, they give us a date, but I love that like we just open this and just like I seeing her in the uniform, I was like, oh, okay, flashback, flashback,
Right.
okay, we're in it. And then, but I
And
thought,
it's in the daylight a little bit. Like
so
it's not at nighttime that she's
yeah,
going over there.
we've been playing with, we've at least speculated on like we're not still not quite sure when this is happening. And I thought it was a little cheeky, if you will, that it's like 7 years prior. I'm like, prior from what?
Hmm.
Prior from when? And of course, when we come back to our present timeline, it's just the fifth day of night. We still don't know. But we did get a little timeline hint in as much as when they're looking through some of the evidence, she references an Ariana Grande.
In
Uh,
2016, yeah.
yes. So I am more and more leaning towards, I think we're just meant to take this as probably 2023, which is when the show was originally meant to come out.
Hmm.
So 7 years prior would set us in 2016,
Right.
which is firmly after the season one timeline, obviously, where we leave
Right.
things. That's
Hmm.
2012. And then again, clarification.
It's a
Uh,
year after season three.
because
'Cause season
season
three was,
three is a span of 25 years total from the
yeah,
start
from
of that case in the
1980.
80s.
Hmm.
Yes. Okay. No,
Hmm.
35 years because it's 2015.
Right.
Right. But that's as far
Yeah,
as we go.
25 would have been, yeah,
That's
2000.
as far
Yeah.
as we go. Okay, so this
Hmm.
is a year removed from the season three timeline. I think that like the events that we're exploring now. So I think that firmly sets us in 2014. Not that this was a huge lingering thread, but just wanted to point it out. I did take a few detective notes, so maybe that can just be our
Yeah,
little guide through the episode, if you will.
sure.
First thing, like I said, flashback opening, second timeline, 7 years prior. It's just noting that. We get some more details on the Wheeler case, which was
Hmm.
vaguely referenced in the previous episode. This is the thing that split Danvers and Navarro, and we get a what I would call a hallmark officially of the
Oh
series
yeah,
at this point,
definitely.
which is the unreliable narrator, the cover up of like we said we did this one thing, but
But we
we are
didn't.
visually showing you we did not. We did something else. This one is still lingering. The real only question is who pulled the fucking trigger, like
Right.
who put him down. But I found this to be one of the more eerie sequences we've had so far in the show. And of course, it is a moment that is not supernatural at all.
No.
It is real world horror, much in the way that like I think about those moments in season one where we would hear prior cases discussed, but not seen, so to speak.
Right.
And then later, when we get to the present timeline there in season one, and Marty, or Russ is asking Marty, like, what made you finally, kick out? And we get the sorry for everybody listening, the baby in the microwave sequence, which
Hmm.
does cut to, you see it
Right.
finally. Whereas a lot of the stuff that Russ is referencing earlier in the show, you don't see. Um, but I thought this was one of the more arresting, like taking us back to the look on that dude's face and like the whistle. That was genuinely like that was creepy.
Yeah.
That was disturbing,
100%, dude.
and got me in a very short amount of time. You get I also want to say I've heard a lot of shade thrown at Lady Jodie Foster, and I don't appreciate any of it. And I hope this is an episode that maybe shuts some people up. This scene in particular, where she closes the door and like lays all this out to Pryor, I want to just
Hmm.
talk about like the range. I'll highlight three scenes right here, and I'm just like, literally haters, like shut the fuck up.
Right.
Take your hat off, boy. That's an
That's a dollar.
actress. That's
Yeah,
an
that's an
actress.
extra.
Um, but no, it's this scene. It's the scene where they go and reinvestigate the girl who does hair, who
Hmm.
lied about knowing Clark and Annie were together. And there's the little girl who's upset,
That she
and
just
and she does the
slowly
mac and
comes in.
cheese. She does the mac and
Hmm.
cheese moment, and it's like
Hmm.
perfect mom shit. And
Hmm.
then like shortly after that, we get I again huge bold in my notes. We finally get our two detectives in a fucking car for an extended chat.
Right.
That's all I want. That's all I want
Hmm.
from this show is fucking two, very different personalities just button heads in a car. So again, we get the incredible recollection, the like unreliable narrator lying to Pryor about what happened there. Great sequence. We get the mom instinct coming in with the kid, and it's like she is like a bitch to pretty much every adult in her life, but every time we see her interact with children, she is like she's a saint basically. And you're like, oh,
Hmm.
oh
Could
fuck. Yeah.
could that have something to do with what maybe she doesn't have?
Yeah.
A
I mean, I
flashback? Something we saw
what
crawling at her in the dark
100%.
earlier?
Absolutely. And then to also have this same character be like, yeah, I'm on Tinder. Yeah, I don't fuck where I eat. Like shit
Not
like that
anymore.
in the next scene.
Yeah.
Like, and I'm dying, dude. I was like, that's the kind of like that's the humor I like from this show. It's Marty and,
Hmm.
Marty and Russ like roasting each other. Marty coming at Russ for like, hey, stop being fucking weird. And Russ,
Right.
quietly judging Marty for being a piece of shit, basically.
Right. Exactly.
Um, Yeah. So I loved it, dude. I've been waiting for get them in a car, and there was a lot of them. They were driving all over the fucking place this whole
Yeah.
episode.
To the point that when they got the call about the dude being awake, I was like, wow. And Becky was like, what? I was like, lights and sirens, huh? And I was like, because all that traffic out there they got to get through.
Yeah,
It's
I did
just
have that. I
some
did
of the
have
stuff.
that thought
Yeah.
because I was like, yeah, they roll. I was like, I like that they roll into the encampment where they go and find. This is Oliver, right?
The guy from the
Used to
first up
be.
the opening.
Yeah. Well, no,
He's
he's
the
not, right? So
I
the
thought
dude
he was
there.
our hunter in the
Well, no, no, no,
opening.
no. That's what I'm saying. The dude they're out there to meet is
Hmm.
Oliver, who was the engineer
Hmm.
or worked on the electrical department or something there and left
Right.
shortly before or after Annie's
After Annie,
murder.
yeah,
Okay.
after her
But
murder.
when they go out to this encampment,
Hmm.
the two guys who come up
Hmm.
to like kind of like, hey, what the fuck are you out here for? Like, you got any
Was it one of the?
jurisdiction out here? The dude on the left, that is our hunter from the opening.
Oh, okay, I got you. I thought
100%.
it was okay.
Yes, but no, that confirms for me. I don't think he had anything to do with Salal, and I think I was just confusing another indigenous person in the Salal crew with that guy.
Right. No, yeah, he
Um,
wasn't. Yeah, he
and I
was
don't
just
think
out
we were
there.
meant to think that they were tied together. But that is the second appearance of that guy, which I thought was significant. But no,
Hmm.
the dude that they go and speak to, who's like basically, don't come in here, I'm gonna blow you away.
Right.
And I don't know. How did you take his reaction to they're all dead?
When he asked specifically about the one dude, and they're like, "Well, no, he's alive, but like he's not, like you can't talk to him or
Oh
anything
yeah,
like
he
that."
did reference, is it Lund, I think?
Yeah, Lund.
Yeah.
And
So it seems like maybe, he wasn't friends with all of them, but he had like a buddy or two that he interacted with. Okay.
right. And just the idea that it's like, okay, you are an engineer, so like that's snowfall small feat. But then like whatever happens, you leave and now you're just out here. Like what happened? That's my question is like what happened that made you leave? You know what I mean?
Right.
Because is did maybe like they discover whoever they woke up and so he was like, we don't need to be doing this, and they were like, screw you, dude. We're gonna do it with or without you. If you can't figure it out, we'll find somebody else. So he just bails because he knows like this is not something we need to be messing with
Hmm.
because I mean, as much as I want to say like she is Annie K, like I think she's somebody completely different. I don't think it's
I mean, there's the implication by the end of this episode that she could fucking be Navarro's mom for all we know.
exactly.
And and
So yeah.
and
So
again, how much she is a, supernatural force, if you will, or, you know, or is she an idea that gets
right.
supplanted in your head and slowly drives you mad, which again, I almost like more if that's kind of where we're headed because that's the true Lovecraftian horror. Or, oh my God, dude, the car scene with the two of them
Yeah.
when when Danvers is just like, I don't go in for any of that. The fact that she said cosmic shit, I was just like, dude, hell yeah.
Yes.
But she was like, I don't go any for that cosmic shit, that Chupalupa. She's like, are you trying
Chalupa.
to say
Like
Chalupa? Are you
Chupa.
trying to say Chupacabra? Like,
Yeah. You
oh,
know what I
that's
mean.
she's
Whatever.
just like, there's no magic. There's no fucking magic. And
Right.
I, again, I love the framing. She's even highlighting it more. She's in the rust seat, but she's Marty. And then we
Uh-huh.
pan the camera back over to
Mm-hmm.
the other side, and it's like it's a further, again, the dark mirror of season one.
Oh yeah,
It's just
definitely, dude.
all fucking twisted around. But again, at the same time, I love that they don't feel like carbon copies of each other because you're taking, to me, elements that have become hallmarks of the series. But like, let's talk about Pryor for a minute. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
His dynamic has been fundamentally altered seemingly with Danvers just because it's like I got slapped in the I got slapped in the fucking face by my dad because I'm helping you out and like is it worth all the trouble, blah blah blah. Maybe kind of
Right.
second guess. So they're a little soured at this moment, but he comes home, he accidentally wakes up the wife, and they have, he has the moment of like, you married a cop, and she's like, no, I didn't. Like, you weren't a cop when I fucking met you, and it very much felt like I was like, oh, this is Marty, and
Exactly.
forgive me, I forget Michelle Monaghan's character name, but it's 100% just we're right back to that, almost more traditional, the thing you expect from the detective genre, which is just like, oh, the job's too much, blah blah blah.
Right.
Uh, but yeah, I thought not. Oh my God, I think I have it in my notes because I had a prior spit. Okay, hold on. Let's get back. Let's get back to some. Okay, before they get on the trail of going back to the hair girl, which then leads them to kind of down the chain. Eventually, they find the Oliver guy, etc. Okay. Uh, when they assemble all of
Right.
the
Yeah.
evidence,
We
I
have
was
our
gonna say,
like let's put
I
it all
just
out there moment, but
I I really dug that scene because it felt like legitimate detective work. The moment when they're like, that that's a candid photo. Like everything else here was
s-
selfies. It was
right,
time
but
tagged. We know where it
somebody
came
took
from,
this one.
but
Yeah.
somebody took this one and like okay, well, it's not just like that's the instant clue. It's like, okay, well, let's look for more of these. And then eventually you find the
Yeah.
blue hair dye. And I'm just like, I like that shit, dude. It's like, it's
Mm-hmm.
clever. It's clever. It's
Yeah.
enjoyable. And again, it's showing like they're smart, dude, There,
Hmm.
she's got an eye for detail. She may be a complete wreck as a person, but Danvers is a pretty fucking smart detective when she can
And
focus in on it.
the thing I think is interesting is that thus far, to me, we have not really seen her like pre this. We've heard about her, but we
Well, I
haven't
think
seen her.
and
And
I mean, we see her in the 7 year timeline, the flashback in this, and I think, and we've seen her in the brief flashback of like dancing with the husband
uh-huh.
or it wasn't to Twist and Shout, it was just something else. But Twist and
Yeah.
Shout was playing with the kid.
You know,
Uh,
yeah, it was something else, but it was you're right.
but yeah,
Yeah,
so
but no,
we,
but
oh, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead.
no, that's my thing. Is like I think it's interesting that like we have her in this mode and it's like, yeah, man, she's bucking anything that will, that can't run away fast enough, Like it's all that. So I'm interested to see coming forward when we get to these flashbacks, is she like nicer, is she the mom type figure the entire time? Is she as gruff around the
Yeah,
edges? Because
what?
it's like that to me is going to be like the ultimate. Like anybody who has anything to say about her or the performance is going to be like, she spent all this time in all these episodes making you be like, man, this she's kind of She made you feel like you wanted to hate on her, but then here we go, the last two, three episodes, whatever, and she's just killing it because you see these flashbacks of like her being truly like happy, really good at like what she was doing in her job thus far. And then like what are the effects of the case that they're lying about? And then like the aftermath of that. How has that turned her into like this gruff and obviously what happens to her husband and possibly other child, whatever, like whatever that event is, like how is that going to morph her and what are we going to see, in the flashbacks of how she was, like that performance, and then like
And
moving
there seems
forward.
like there's kind of this deep-seated dislike of her, and she also seems to have this baked-in rejection of the Inupiaq culture that's there. But the
Hmm.
way all of them look at her, it's it's like there's some further implication, and I don't mean to draw this as a comparison, but I don't know if it's like, an interracial dating sort of
Oh no,
thing
no, yeah, totally. I get
where
that
you
left and
have,
right. Like they're all
yeah,
looking at him like you
that's the
got with
vibe I
this
get.
guy, right?
Yeah,
Because that's the thing I noticed. Like when she does show up to the thing for the thing that they're all at, and
the
um
child who's been born, stillborn.
right,
Yeah.
it's all women.
Hmm.
There's no men there, and it's one of these things of like you is that a predominant thing? Because I mean that is a predominant thing in like a reservation dogs, different native culture,
Hmm.
you know, inland, not in the ice, all that. But at the core, native culture that is predominantly women. And I think that's the key here. On top of everything, is like, yes, this is written by women, or a woman, and like showing all this stuff, but at the same time, it's kind of commenting on the idea of like again, like we've said, the first season, it's Black Mirror or Dark Mirror is going to be like all female and like driven by that. And there's this whole just like the idea that she, who is not one of them, managed to like, I don't know if they would look at her as like, I don't want to say white devil, but like they look at her as like you're that white lady cop that got with this one, guy that maybe all of us are like, oh, we the whole community loved. He was a great guy. He got with you, and what happened? He's not here anymore. We don't know exactly why, but he's not here anymore. So there's just that little bit of disdain that they all know who she is, not just for being a cop, but because they know who she was involved with, who she was married to, and that just is ultimately going to have her pegged as this thing. And I feel like that may have even informed like what happened moving forward. Like we don't necessarily know when that event happened with her. So does that event with her ex-husband and the child, does that happen and then we deal with Annie K? And so like she's dealing with the fallout and stigma from whatever happens to that. That sours her. That's why she doesn't want to pursue the Annie K thing because it's like we know who did this. It was sent as a message like, what do you want me to do? You know? But we also know that like I don't think she shows up until after that happens, right? Because she shows up after that Annie K thing, and Navarro tries to get her to reopen it, and she just doesn't want to deal with it. So I don't know how that's going to play, but I'm interested to see where that moves forward. What exactly are we not seeing with the ex-husband or her husband, former husband and uh I'm assuming it's her own child. I would assume that it was another, or and that could even be it too, is the fact that it's like maybe it was stepdad with two kids and she was like that, and for whatever reason father and son or father and whatever was are gone. I'm assuming died in some kind of accident based off of the whole DUI thing in the first one, but
That's
like
what we're assuming. Yeah.
yeah. But it's like, so here's that. And it's like, okay, you come to town, you maybe get this guy to leave his wife, or like whatever happens, she divorces, or like he never had a, his wife is already dead. He gets with you, and then bam, he's gone, and you're still hanging on, like,
Maybe
ticking.
his wife is another missing woman or another
Hmm.
murdered woman potentially. Because the also
Right.
the introduction of like Navarro's mom and that whole backstory where it's just like all we know is she was murdered. It's like suddenly the Annie K thing is like even further deepened because it's like this is clearly what made her become a cop in the first place
Exactly.
was the
Yeah.
murder of well, of a woman, an unsolved murder presumably. Well,
Hmm.
she literally says they never caught him. Um, Going back to the meeting with the hairstylist again, we get a little detail on the tattoo. I thought this was significant because, again, in an episode that is not giving these like huge lore tie-ins, we're
Right.
getting thematic threads that are, I think organically tying a lot of the seasons together. But this
Right.
was so we mentioned the Wheeler case, the unreliable narrator. That's a direct parallel to the Reggie Ledoux sequence in season
Hmm.
one and in season three. I forget that dude's name, but the guy they take out to the barn and you know how
Harris James.
Harris James, thank you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Don't ask me
uh
why I know.
I was trying to pull it too, I could not, but I know that's right. As soon as you said it I was like, that's right, that's correct. Okay, so we find out the reason she got the tattoo is
Hmm.
because she dreamed it during high school. Okay, and once she got the tattoo the dream stopped.
Hmm.
For me personally, I had one line and one line only playing in the back of my head.
What's that?
They had animal faces, so I knew it had to be a dream.
Oh my God, dude. Dude. Okay.
100%. As soon as they said that, I was like, hold on, hold the phone, hold
Dude.
everything,
Yeah.
because so much of what, and this ties into what we were just talking about with these missing indigenous women in particular.
Hmm.
What we essentially discovered in season one, which was like so nefarious when you actually like stepped back and really thought about it, just like beyond sinister,
Hmm.
that the way that the Tuttles like got, you know, these kids within their grasp was not only like there was religion baked into it, it was these
Hmm.
sponsored schools under the guise of
Hmm.
like, well, we're not going to teach this evolution bullshit. We're teaching the word of God. And
Hmm.
like in that guise, they basically farmed out a bunch of kids for their pedophile ring. Okay.
Hmm.
Like beyond upsetting. Okay. But I could not get over the fact that again in that sequence we or when Russ catches up with that character,
Yeah.
uh it's like yeah they were drugging us and that's an element with the kids that Ledoux and his
DeWalt.
accomplices have, and it's like, yeah, the idea that like, and that's an echo of season three as well, where the girl had been given fucking lithium, like
Hmm.
slow dosed, like most of her young life, so that she did in fact think all this shit was a dream.
Because,
And
well,
so
and
I'm just sitting there going like, the spiral is in her head because perhaps I'm just speculating, but like she was targeted as a kid. Again, we've set up that like these like kids go missing, women go missing, it's not investigated. Like murders happen, people disappear out here, they just kind of walk off into space. As Navarro mentions, like, you ever just feel like you just want to fucking disappear? And I'm like, I don't know. And by the time we get to the end of this episode, like the shit that's happening with her, dude, I don't know.
hmm
But yeah, it immediate, but that reference to she dreamed it, I was just like, is it a repressed memory kind of thing cropping up where she has been like, oh, this has to be a dream. My image of the spiral or whatever. It's like, no, you've seen that. You've seen that before in childhood. It's like a repressed memory sort of thing.
Right.
And it's somehow in like, naming it, claiming it sort of thing. She gets the tattoo, you know,
And no longer has the power
she
over it.
doesn't
Right.
have the association with it. So this thought of, oh, she was wrapped up in it, like as in like into it or like seduced by it, so to speak,
Hmm.
the crooked spiral, the cult of Carcosa, whatever we want to call it. Um, I'm like off of that trail. And, it seems like it had a different significance to her given what we learned about it being a
Right.
dream.
Yeah. No. Or I mean, or you're mis. It could be she got the. We know that she got the tattoo because she dreamed it, but it's like it could very easily be that like that's just like whether it wasn't put on her any other way, but like everybody who like is associated with that somewhere down the line has that tattoo somewhere, whether they've seen it and got tattooed by it, or like I always looked at it as like that's a brand, maybe not necessarily for like the entire thing, but it definitely was like a childress brand thing because I got to thinking about it the other day. If you look at like how old he is when they find him in season one at the end, you got to believe that like that dude was like all that shit happened to him as a child.
Oh,
Like
100%.
he was on a tape somewhere or an 8 millimeter film or something like that back in the day. And
Presumably Reggie and Dwall for all we know. Like,
yeah,
yeah.
and now it was like, okay, this is what they were indoctrinated with. So as they're growing up, it's like, well, this is naturally what we're gonna do.
Hmm.
We're just gonna move, but Childress still has that childlike thing of him where he wants to like, like how he's talking to Ann Dowd and whatnot
Hmm.
with the bravado 1 minute and quoting stuff the other, and it's like it becomes a thing where it's like some of the men who may be involved to me, it was like at that point they were like, we're just like going to be dressed up here and watching this. Like, we're not going to be physically or actively involved because we know there's a camera and we know there's DNA and stuff now. We'll let
Hmm.
these crazy fucks that we've been doing this to for years, we'll let them run around. But we're just going to be here to be like, yeah, this is what we do. We're just, the Crooked Spiral Syndicate,
Yeah,
whatever the hell you want to
we'll
call
pull
us.
this out when we're having a cigar in our, dark wooden dens and
Yeah.
stuff in our fucking
Yeah.
mansions
When one
with
of
our
us
crew.
dies, Nicolas Cage will find the 8 millimeter film, and his wife, our wife's gonna
Absolutely.
ask him how to
Yeah.
fucking like, dude. If you talk about one that like you that one still bothers me, 8 millimeter.
Yeah.
Um, just because of watching it at an early age. But yeah, with this, what was I gonna say? With the with the stuff with her mom, and then like of course they get the stuff from the hairdresser and all that. But then they go, where was it? They brought the when they brought the taxidermy dude, or like and he was like, yeah, I don't think these guys were like, I don't think they froze to death. Like something got to them and then they died.
Yeah.
Like they didn't just, he's like, if most people or animals or anything like that, when they freeze, it's very peaceful. It's just kind of like they just kind of slip away and go to sleep. That's not what happened here. And that's what I've been thinking about every time we take a
He
we
references the caribou,
right that we see in the beginning,
you
right?
know.
And it's like every time we have a shot of that thing and they're all mangled together, I'm like, how are we like I get maybe, you know, okay, they may have chewed some of their own fingers off or whatever, but it's like, do we even just could the guy have been like covering his face and something has come along and eaten it post mortem, but it just looks like he was trying to eat his own hand? Because
Yeah.
it doesn't look, it's great visual, but it just doesn't. I'm not saying I had that feeling and I was like, okay, they confirmed it, but it is this thing of like, I just can't see how you would just supposedly freeze to death in that manner. You know,
Yeah, no,
it doesn't make any sense.
I think it was meant to, you know, I don't know. Maybe because of how it was, and the fact that one of them came out of the configuration. In my mind, it's like maybe it was, they were, you know, Well, and the fact that the one dude was still alive, which of course we'll never fucking know now.
Yeah,
We'll
dude.
never fucking know now. Let's go ahead. We got like, okay, hold
Yeah,
on.
we could
We'll-
jump to that last sequence,
Well,
dude.
no, 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 hold on. Let me just make sure it didn't have anything else I wanted to hit. Oh, just like we also, sorry, there was a lot of stuff that happened with the hairdresser. We didn't talk about the fact that
Oh,
she
she
reported
reported
this
it right
shit
to Ted. Yeah.
to Hank Pryor.
Who's Ted?
Ted is Eccleston.
Oh,
Yeah, when
okay.
she
Because she,
says you still fucking Ted, she means like you still fucking the boss. Because she
yeah.
knows about that. And again, Danvers is under the impression that like
Uh,
nobody knows about that. And she's like,
she's like,
everybody
everybody
knows
knows
about
about this
that.
shit, dude. Yeah.
Um,
I do love the bit where he was like, "How about you playing Mrs. Robinson, my
dude,
boy?" And he did,
I
who's Mrs. Robinson? I was like,
that
dude,
whole
I'm like,
back and forth, I was laughing.
mhm,
That was some good shit. But yeah, they come in and dress him down, and and he is very dismissive about Annie. And it seems so fucking clear that like, and again, I've never pointed it out on any of these, but I'm like, sometimes the shit just hides in plain sight. But I'm like, Hank Pryor definitely has priors, bro. He
oh,
was
of course.
definitely involved. Like, I mean, we said this from the get-go, but it's like he's clearly obfuscating evidence. He's covering up something, and I don't
Hmm.
know to what extent. Sorry, this leads me back to young Pryor. The scene with him and his wife,
Hmm.
there's the whole tension where he's like, maybe I don't want to be a fucking joke anymore. And I kept coming back to this thing that it's like, you see the way that Hank conducts himself out when it's like, I'm gonna bring in the locals, like to go out on this manhunt and everything. And he see
Hmm.
again, it's just another jackass move. We're just like, dude, this guy's a fucking joke. Like he's an idiot. He's not good at his job. He's like the equivalent of, I guess, like an Alaskan good old boy. He's got like, anyways. But I kept coming back to this, like, okay, Pryor is definitely like got this chip on his shoulder. I want to prove myself. And it's like, so maybe initially he becomes a cop because it's like, oh, well, that's what my dad does. The natural like son thing of like, oh, I want to impress my father, want to live up to his expectations, whatever, whether that was
Hmm.
self-imposed or not.
Right.
And then maybe he sees like, oh, my dad's kind of shit. He's not really good at this. And he sees in Danvers in this current moment as an opportunity to like, well, this is an actual, like, I want to be a true detective, so to speak. I don't want to be a
Right.
fucking joke. I don't want to
Right.
be associated with my dad in that sort of way. But I kept coming back to this thing of like, you know, blood is blood, Peter.
Hmm.
Is Peter and is Peter so seemingly invested in this case, not just because of the potential, just because it's a fucking wild thing,
Hmm.
but is it some sort of make good for something that he was part of or privy to, whether super conscious of or not, did he help his dad cover something up, maybe not fully knowing what it was, and has now come to question like, you know, did I aid in maybe, you know, keeping this murderer from being found? Or again, I think what the ultimate reveal may be, it was Hawks all along, and he did in fact kill Annie K. But who knows? Who knows? But I'm just it further that like, oh, I gotta prove it mentality coming out with the wife. And again, the weird thing with the son in the first episode where he was just like, oh shit, call back there. What was the name of the finger lady? The creepy finger, like the myth that the grandmother tells the kid about.
Uh,
We got to
um,
go back to that scene because is that not the name that Lund says at the end of this episode?
I didn't catch him saying a name, but yeah, yeah, no, the
He
blood,
says like Tolmuk or something.
Tulamuk or whatever. Yeah, 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 yeah. It's got to be, yeah,
Is we need to go back and watch that scene. But I was
because Danvers
I
is Danvers is giving her like it's that night when Danvers goes to his house after like making him stay out, right? So she hears the grandmother tell the boy that story, right?
Danvers does not hear it. No.
Oh, I thought the. Hmm.
Pryor comes home and he finds that picture that the
Oh, yeah,
kid
yeah, yeah,
drew,
yeah. Okay.
which of course again tie into to season one.
Hmm.
with Marty's daughter drawing the picture that we never hear. It's just, it's just referenced. But um, so
Mm-hmm.
again, we're just, we're drawing the parallels. But uh, yeah, and then the wife tells Pryor about that myth. I want to go back and revisit that scene for sure. Um, but yeah, I was like, oh, is she the one that's awake potentially?
Hmm.
So yeah, anything else you wanted to hit before that finale? Because I feel like that final scene is going to be very divisive.
Hmm. I'm trying to think.
I still feel like it's, or yeah, anything you want to hit.
Hmm. I think
Oh,
that's
we did
pretty
get
much.
the, oh, excuse me. We got the two moments with Navarro isolated out on the ice, very purposefully isolated on the ice. There's the early one before she gets the call about her sister, I believe, where she throws the orange and the orange comes back to her, very Shining-esque, obviously, moment with
Hmm.
Danny and the ball. Um,
Right.
so there's that, but it's very quickly interrupted by she gets a call on the phone. So it's like, we move away from that. That's the first instance. And then there's another time later on where she's back out like looking, investigating. Presumably they're still looking for Clark, but she's in like a different area. And she slips
Hits her head.
on the ice, hits her head, comes up, and she's presumably like back in the Middle East,
Flashback.
we think. But then we're mixing the imagery because what seems to be Danvers, again, either son or stepson,
Hmm.
says, "Tell mommy," and then I even put the subtitles on. It's obscured what he says after that.
Hmm.
I again, my brain wants to hear a T word. I want to hear if we're hearing like Tolmuk or whatever the, excuse me, sneeze.
Bless
Whoa,
you.
I don't think
That's
we've
pretty
had one
good.
of those on mic in a while. Sorry.
No, been a minute.
Whoa. Uh, but yeah, so there's those two instances. We also have the moment where she goes out and talks to her sister, who's like, feels like something's coming after her. She's kind of losing it a little bit. She's having some maybe suicidal ideation. And the third and final one is the hammer blow at the end of this, where it's like Navarro, it's almost like she kind of starts the series open to this side of her culture, but still maybe a little more practical, if you will. And it's like the meeting with Rose opens her up a little bit. And there's still this sense of like, well, I got my shit together, like mentally speaking, but like, I am concerned about my sister. My mom had issues, et cetera, et cetera. But we've slowly threaded in with the polar bear moment in episode one, the hearing she hears she's awake, you
Hmm.
know? And we have established like weird shit happens out here. It's kind of a known thing, at least it's presumably in the indigenous community that like, yeah, you just see shit sometimes. Like weird vibes, spirits, we're at the edge of the world, weird shit happens. And you
Hmm.
either accept it or you don't. But I feel like you're kind of meant to be actively questioning, and I think it plays with it in an interesting way, this final moment, but because it's strictly from her perspective. Danvers is pulled away. There's like the locals fighting uh in the front of the hospital.
Hmm.
And then we get a straight up I was thinking Pet Cemetery. Like the tone of voice and everything. I was picturing dude that you know,
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I could see that. That makes
just
sense.
that vibe is what I was getting. And a little bit of a show we were a little mixed on, but still had a fun time. You remember The Outsider?
Yeah.
Yeah. A little, let's get a little bit of that vibes, but we get essentially like a possession scene. And it's
Hmm.
like your mom's waiting for you. And okay, you're like, and then points at her somewhere to the way the mom was pointing in the flashback, which I think we got in episode two. It's a
Yes.
flashback to her and her sister. Uh,
Yeah, because her
yeah.
mom looked
And
like she
then,
was going through a weird exorcism thing
yes.
that time too.
And then he seizes essentially and dies. And
Right.
that's it. So we got one word out of him essentially. And again, a private moment with Navarro that again, I think you can approach as like, you know, again, I think if you have a natural aversion to like you didn't want it to tip supernatural, you're going to use this as ammunition to be like, oh man, I hate that they did that shit. That was some horror movie bullshit. Like I didn't like that stuff.
Right.
But I think the thread of like those two prior moments in the episode, Navarro is on a journey, if you will, or if you want to look at it this way, she's mentally breaking down. This shit, the unexplainable nature of it, she's trying to wrap her head around it and she's not able to. And something else is trying to maybe guide her, but she may not be fully open to that yet. Um, I don't know. I think we're in a very interesting space, and that's before we get to the very final moment of this episode, which is it was just tossed away earlier, but
Hmm.
Danvers tells Pryor like, "Hey, just figure it out. Just unlock Annie's phone." It's like, "You're
Yeah.
30, you can do
You know what
this."
you're doing. Please
And
do
I'm
this.
sorry, when they establish that he's 30, I'm 33 myself. When they establish that he's 30 and then he's like, "Who's Mrs. Robinson?" I was like, "What the fuck, man?" Like,
Seriously.
come on. I
Yeah.
was like, funny joke made me laugh, but like, seriously, you never watched The fucking Graduate, dude? What's wrong with you? All right. I think I watched The Graduate when I was like 10. Or no, I would have been 12. It was whenever Garden State came out because it was like the Graduate for a new generation. And I was like, what's The Graduate? I knew what The Graduate was before that. I was a big
Right.
Mike Nichols guy. Just making a joke. Anyways, yeah, okay, excuse me. So they cracked the phone. Dude, I mean, what'd you think of this video, man? Again,
I
it's just a hint, but I'm sorry. I see an ice tunnel and it's like I think I found it and I'm just like, yo, you find a portal, girl?
yeah.
Did you find a portal to the ancient ones?
Yeah.
Is there a tentacle about to drag you? Like, is that what we hear you screaming at the end of the episode? Did you see a
Hmm.
person, or is that the scream that you emit when you see some unspeakable horror, something you cannot explain? I'm just,
Yeah.
where was she? What's going? And sure enough, next time on, we're looking for some ice tunnels, and we already have the imagery from the trailer. We haven't gotten it yet. At this point, I'm thinking it's a penultimate thing, or maybe it's a finale thing. We know Jodie Foster's going in that ice.
Of course.
We know she's going in that ice. Uh, Interested to see what she finds down there. Maybe a one-eyed polar bear. Maybe,
Mm.
maybe the secret truth of the universe. I don't know. Maybe
Yeah.
maybe Ray Velcoro. Maybe that's where they dumped his body. I'm
That
just
could be.
that was
Yeah.
public. That was public, right? Like, no, they just
Oh, in the force?
Okay, I'm sorry, I went off on a tangent, but like in the season two wrap up, like yeah, they kill him in the forest, but like isn't it written off as like, oh, he was corrupt, or like don't they like essentially slander his name in the public or some
Everybody do.
shit?
They
Yeah,
they don't they
they
like pin
basically
Deshaun they pin Chisani's murder on him.
yeah, I think they put
He
like
was
all of
corrupt,
it
they were
back on.
partners. Yeah.
Yeah. Which is
Hmm.
the ultimate tragedy again, because you're like, oh, the kid, man, the kid's gonna think his dad was a piece of shit. Like,
Yeah. Because
is he
he
gonna
tells him like,
know? Is
yeah,
he gonna know? Yeah. Oh my God. Okay. Sorry. We can't help ourselves, dude. We're just always trying to bring it back to season two. So I was talking to Tim on the phone the other day and, speculating about stuff. He's like, he's like, if they really want to get people reinvested, they need to bring back Vince Vaughn. I was like, dude, that would when I would truly would be like, dude, Issa Lopez gets it. As if she was just like, yeah, that's who I want back.
of course. Have you gone in and looked at any of like the tie-in stuff that people have talked about from the episodes like since just to bring it back? Because there's some stuff in here that I thought was really
Or
interesting.
I'm sure there's more stuff than we've touched on. So
So
yeah, let's
listen
let's
listen to
wrap
this,
up with
dude.
some more connections and then we'll get out of here
This
for
is
this
just what I
week.
think is funny. It's interesting, actually. So this is from a Vanity Fair article talking about the part one of Night Country, and it says the show's first episode begins with a stark epigraph, for we do not know what beast the night dreams when its hour grows too long for even God to be awake. And it says the text is attributed to Hildred Castigan, a name that might be familiar to True Detective season one diehards. Hildred is the protagonist of the short story
The
bound in
King
Robert
in
W. Chain.
Yellow. Yep.
Yeah, The King in Yellow. Yeah. And then it's like it says more specifically, Hildred is a unreliable narrator of a story called the Rapier in of Reputations. He's an illusional figure who believes himself to be the heir of a royal dynasty that descends from the stars and is driven mad in part by reading the fictional play, also titled The Yellow King. Sorian's in confessing to two murders, followed by an editor's note. Simply reads, Mr. Casca died yesterday in the asylum for the criminally insane. That line opens all of Night Country. What was said. And it's just I should
Well,
have gone back and watched these.
I should also note, I don't know if it's noted in that article. I've heard this tidbit. The the cooler thing about it, that
Hmm.
quote is
She
not
wrote
from,
it.
yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
she wrote
Lisa
it. Yeah, yeah.
Lopez just
Hmm.
wrote it and was like, I need a cool quote to open it. I know this is what I wanted to say, so
Hmm.
fuck it. And
I'm
then
just gonna
she's
add it in
like,
there.
I'm
Yeah.
going to attribute it to this person because this will totally like people will be on the train from episode one that like, oh, I'm doing it. I'm doing it. I am playing in those waters,
Hmm.
playing in the cosmos, actually, is how we should put it. Uh yeah, man. Anything else from that Vanity Fair piece you want to
I'm
touch
looking
on?
through because I was trying to go back to the name.
I think we've done a pretty good job of catching a lot of them. And again, the more I feel like the thing that people aren't even looking at is connections, but I'm just like, there's so many thematic threads, like visually and just story wise so far that are becoming established hallmarks of the series.
Yeah.
But very, very clearly to me, obviously, there's so many points of reference to season one, but there's a lot of three tissue in there. There is. I would, I'd like to see everybody get a little play, and I would love some light thematic references to season two. I'm just saying, I think it's doable. I think it's doable, and I would be interested to see how that would be done. Okay. Uh,
Oh, hang on. There's
oh,
there's
Gavin,
okay. It
he's
says
going through the files. He's found something.
there's this article says there's a big old box labeled meth in the Ennis Police Department evidence room, and this might be a reach, but the season one antagonist Reggie Ledoux was a meth peddler whose lab was the site of the climactic episode of season five. I'm like, all right, that might be a little bit of stretch, but like it's
But they
just one of
were
these.
drugging those kids.
Hmm.
Just like
Um,
they were drugging Annie K, which is why she didn't remember the spiral.
they have a talk about the orange and like
Yeah, Issa had referenced Look Out for Oranges. I think as well the guy who plays Peter had said to
okay.
look out for
The other thing is,
oranges. So
I
we already
guess,
got that moment. I don't know what the significance of the oranges other than, in The Godfather, you eat a fucking orange, you're dead. Or you're at
yeah,
least gonna get
exactly.
shot. So yeah,
I guess it was probably just because an orange is going to look different, and the only thing that stand out against like the white.
you need the contrast also.
Yeah,
Yeah. Um,
yeah. No, I was trying to look and see if anybody put the clue together with the name thing because
I
I
want to
think,
know how much that orange cost in Ennis, Alaska, because
oh,
I'm
dude, it's
assuming it's
probably
like well, like 850.
9.5, depending on. Yeah, yeah.
Something I had not thought about. I love that little detail though when they went into
The
the shop. I'm
market.
like,
Yeah,
oh yeah, the markup because the
yeah.
extra like fucking like shipping
3 weeks
charges and
to
all
get it here.
sorts of
Yeah,
stuff. I'm like, oh, that would suck. That would suck, man.
yeah. No, that's a
I think
constant thing
Harris
we.
Teeter's expensive down here. Fuck
Yeah.
that.
Well, that's the constant thing we have. Like when we're talking, Becky's like, I don't think I could live there. I'm like, yeah, I mean, I don't think so. I said I wouldn't. She's like, just driving out like that. And I'm like, well, the snow kind of eliminates 90% of the things that you're going to encounter here in South Carolina. The things you're going to encounter are just much bigger. And if you
Right.
are left alone, they could probably, do some damage to you if you aren't careful. But yeah, you're not gonna have squirrels. You're not gonna have like random possums and so you may still have possums out in Alaska. I don't know, but there's just a certain like certain thing that you're not gonna encounter that you would hear. But it's still like I don't know if I can live in darkness all that much. The only issue I did have was there's one time when they're in the car and it very much looks like the sun is setting or the sun is out at some point. Maybe that might just be like a changeover thing when it's going to go back to like what we know as like daytime or nighttime for them. They look like they're going to have a sunrise, but really they don't. And then just the moon pops back up somehow. I don't
About when
know, but
they're driving in the car, the
yeah,
kind of extended or like the extended conversation scene. I
yeah.
Yeah, no, same thing. But
I was like, wait a minute.
I've had that same thought sometime with some of the interiors and it trips me out. And
Mm-hmm.
then I'm like, no, it's those big like exterior lights
Mm-hmm.
reflecting off of the snow, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and the night, it
Yeah. I could see that too. But it just in not in
they've
trying
been
to
pretty
listen to what they're
consistent about
saying.
it. It would be wild if we
Right.
all of a sudden spotted one where it's like, oh, did you guys forget to color correct this? Like,
Right. Yeah. And that could be it. It's like I'm paying attention to what they're saying and how they're, just learning what you can about them back and forth with everything. And so it's like I'm listening, but I'm also paying attention to the background. I'm like, are they supposed to be in daytime? We're in the present day. They're in darkness. They've done such a good job of like keeping the because like, okay, there's
well, just the multiple times in this episode where you see Navarro out searching on her own,
right.
separated by about maybe 10-15 minutes of like screen time. Again, I'm like, is this later that night? Is it like, were you out there in the morning and this is you coming back like in the evening? And like all the trekking they do, I
Hmm.
personally like that I don't really have a sense of the geography at all because it just adds to the like, you know, this is its own world sort of vibe.
Hmm.
Um, and yeah, it's not like I really need to know like, oh, this is 5 minutes from this, but it did just feel like they were like ping ponging all over the town
Hmm.
in this episode. And I feel like we got to come back to the dude out at the camp, right?
Yeah.
In some way, it just seems like a loose threat, and they get kind of pulled away from it, right? Because well, they're leaving anyways, because he's like, I'm gonna fucking kill you. But
But that's interesting you
but
say
they
that
do
too,
get pulled to the
because
hospital almost immediately.
well,
But
it's interesting you say that they get pulled away to do something else because and like okay, you asked me what I thought of them when it's like, oh, he's alive, whatever. Is that the questioning of a man who's like, oh, my friends are still alive? Or is that a guy like, oh, I didn't get him? I thought I got them all,
yeah,
you know? So that's interesting that you talk about just you saying, oh, they get pulled away from it. I think I didn't recognize him, Marty, because his son was backlighting his face and he was sitting down and realized how big he was. I thought he was just dirty, but I didn't see the scars on his face, like that being a pivotal thing
because
because
we don't learn any new piece of information from him, correct? They come out there, he's very aggressive,
mm-hmm,
and they tell him one guy's still in the hospital, he's not doing
mm-hmm,
very well, the rest of them are dead. But
mm-hmm.
he's basically like, what the hell? And then is like, okay, if you don't have an arrest warrant, like you need to get the hell out of here right now.
Yeah,
And kind
no,
of
she
shoos them off, but it's like that's and again, I can't get over the fact that the one dude that we saw there is the hunter from the opening of episode
hmm.
one. And I
And
just
it's one
feel
of
like
those
there's
things where it's
another
like,
shoe to drop because again, it's like that dude's out on the ice. I don't know.
and maybe that dude saw everything that this guy did. And that's why because you can think about it. They're out there, they're nomad, whatever like thing they're doing and whatnot. If they really like really, really, really don't want this dude to be talked to or for them to know where he's at, they just say, no, I hadn't seen him. He's been running around. Like, we don't know. Sorry, officers, we don't know. But they're like, I don't know if he's around. And they're pointing like he's in the shack over here.
Yeah.
So they're verbalizing that if he's listening, they're like, oh, we don't think he's around, and they're like, okay,
Hmm.
like to this group, like, could that group be afraid of him? for some reason, one or another, you know. So that, you know, you throw that in there. So yeah, I don't know if we come back to him, but it's one of those where it's like I was thinking about this the other day because I did start. I didn't realize he had anything to do with it until and I probably should have known this, but I just wanted to restart The Killing because I hadn't watched it all the
Mhm.
way through ever. I watched as
Oh,
they came
same.
out.
I fell off after I think like midway through season two. I just like
Hmm.
lost track of it one week. That's when I used to watch stuff on AMC like week to week,
Right.
and then I just never caught back up. When does Skarsgård come in?
Three.
Sarsgaard, excuse me, not Skarsgård. Sarsgaard.
Yeah. He comes
In
in
three, you
three.
said? I always wanted to make time for that one. So
Dude, it's good.
maybe I'll go
And
back.
then you know they got the fourth season from Netflix when they ended three on a cliffhanger.
Oh,
So yeah,
oh.
there's another
So
yeah,
more
there's a whole
seasons. Okay.
it takes place at a military academy.
It's still them?
Two of them, yep. And it does have ties back into the case with Sarsgaard because Sarsgaard is like the case that made her go crazy and go into the asylum or go into gets you know had to go into a mental health facility for a little bit.
Okay.
So, but like I saw the Pizzolatto wrote on a couple episodes.
Hmm.
So, but they and I kept as I'm watching through season one, I'm like, they are fucking throwing every goddamn red herring you can think of at you in the first 4 or 5 episodes. Oh, it
The
was
kid,
the
and
teenagers and all that different
this
stuff,
is
you know?
something that never like fully it coalesced in retrospect because I think I chronologically I definitely saw the first season of The Killing prior, but
Right,
when I finally did do all of Twin Peaks, which at that
right.
point was just seasons one and two, I was like,
Hmm.
oh, literally, The Killing is Twin Peaks, but no fun. Like, take
Right.
all the fun out of Twin Peaks.
The
That's
gritty
The
real,
Killing. I was
the
like,
gritty
that's
real version
literally
of
The
it. Yeah.
Killing. Um,
Yeah.
who killed Rosie Larson, right?
Right.
Didn't quite have the staying power of who killed fucking Laura
Nora
Palmer. Sorry. They do, but just their whole ad campaign for that season, it had, I didn't think of it at the time because I didn't have the Twin Peaks association, but like
Me neither.
if you were a television fan of a certain age, you probably were like, look at these fucking idiots trying to like recapture the magic. Like that's your ad campaign? That's your whole ad campaign is who killed Rosie Larson. I don't know. But I loved that first season. I thought it was phenomenal. And that was our introduction to not only Kinnaman, but Marielinos for me as well, who's
Yeah.
phenomenal. Yeah. Okay.
And then we had the Rocketeer in there. I was happy about that.
So yeah, check out The Killing if you're still in those vibes. We vouch for multiple seasons
Available
of
on
that.
AMC Plus. Yet another
Um,
plug for AMC
and
Plus.
while you're over there, check out Monsieur Spade, which aired episode three tonight. I will be catching up with that tomorrow. Very much looking forward to it. I have heard, I have not seen this yet, but I've heard that Monsieur Spade might have a vague supernatural element that is going
Hmm.
to rear its head. So all these true
Interesting.
detective naysayers, it can exist in your detective fiction. It's okay.
Yeah.
Um, more to come on that. I saw it vaguely referenced in an article, and I was like, wait, what? I haven't. None of that has started yet, so maybe that's happening tonight. I'm curious.
Hmm.
Uh,
Well, it's just interesting that like if you look, I mean, I feel like if you're looking at like pulp novels or pulp magazines and stuff in the late tens and twenties into the 30s, and when you're getting like the classic like true detective like magazines and stuff and like the stuff that seems to be always referenced in like serial killers like oh I read these books when I was little and like they had women on the cover and tied up and all you know, like
right.
those are like right next to like the Lovecraft's cosmic horror and like if you read Lovecraft there are a lot of them that are like they aren't quote unquote like detectives but they read like, I don't know what it is that propelled me to do this thing, but I felt some unearthly call to investigate what was going on here. So I had to travel through the woods into this
Yeah,
idyllic, you
it's
know, it's
writers or
yeah,
professors, scientists, like
yeah.
yeah,
There's always some question they're trying to, yeah,
often men of science or reason, or
right,
men of religion and faith. Like
right,
those are kind of the two like style of protagonists that you'll
exactly.
have. Um, yeah. And we should go deeper at some point into we always reference it as Lovecraft, but like the the King in Yellow mythology and all of that, like all of that predates him. Like it's stuff that he picked up and ran with and like
Right.
built out more of the lore of, but like it has been I love that the all of this lore, so to speak, has been an ongoing conversation between different
Hmm.
fantasy and sci-fi writers like over decades and decades, where it's like people add to it, people change things. The mythos is ever, evolving and changing, and there are no rules to it, which is why it is
Right.
the perfect thing to incorporate into your show because nobody's holding you to, oh, well, these are the rules of Carcosa. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
Even in the way it's presented in the text, we don't know. We don't fucking know, A lot of it, and that's where the beauty lies, is the vagueness, and that's where the madness comes in, is like
Hmm.
you want to be able to like what's going on here, and you can't always do that. So
No.
I love that we're fully swimming in those waters, especially at the end of this. I know not everybody's going to go for possessed body talking to a detective on an episode of True Detective. I didn't bother it. Guess who talks to Velcoro in episode two of True Detective season two? Excuse me, episode three of True Detective season two. His dead dad in a very
No. No. No.
ghostly
No.
like
No. No. His dad is alive at that point.
no,
He's talking to his dad in a dream when he gets shot, but
excuse me. Oh, Fred
he
Ward
goes
is
before
still
his
alive. You are
because Fred Ward is
100%.
yeah,
See,
Fred Ward
this
is yeah.
it's
But that
been a
no,
minute. But
right, but
no,
that still
but
is he's
again,
having a dream-like
that is
sequence.
fair, that is Farrell in a total dream space. Like that's prior to the the Travis Cole dance in episode one,
Right.
which I reference as the most Lynchian thing in the history of the show. The other most Lynchian thing is that scene at the top of episode three with Fred
Telegraphing the
Ward.
entire show.
That definitely feels like you are all of a sudden, you're like, is this the equivalent of like, is this Nick Pizzolatto's Red Room? Like, is this his?
The bar that he's sitting in.
Yes. Is
Yeah.
this the equivalent of the in between space where we go to navigate these things?
Right.
Um, yeah, dude. I'm like with the show has always played in the I just I don't like this thing that I keep hearing people come in with, just like, why are they shoving all this shit into it? I'm like, it's still walking a line.
Hmm.
Nothing has said, if you don't believe in spirits and ghosts and supernatural horror, whatever you want to call it, then then you're wrong. Like nothing has said that
Hmm.
throughout all of the show. And I truly, I don't think it's ever gonna like tip its hand one way or the other. That's where the show has always lived at to a
Hmm.
certain extent. Some seasons more than others, and some elements more than others. But I'm,
White lines in the middle of the
I don't,
road. It's the worst place to drive.
I don't I don't know why I feel the need to defend it. It should be enough to just be like, hey, I'm fucking enjoying it. We're enjoying it. We're having a blast
Hmm.
talking about it week to week. But there's a little bit of it does feel somewhat unfounded. I feel like people are going out of their way to find things to nitpick and talk shit about the show. Again, I part of me just
It's
wants to
just
say,
because she's a woman, dude. That's
I mean,
all.
it is there. I'm sorry. There is an inherent, there does seem to be a true, like, inherent amount of sexism in the more public discourse. The critics seem to love this shit, but the audience reaction, it's hard not to see some of this couched in just like a good bit of misogyny of just fucking dude bros on your various social media outlets who are like, it's not fucking Rust Cole. It's not dark enough. It's not narcissistic. Why are all these women around? Why are you showing me birthing sequences? Why are you showing me indigenous women? Like, why? And
Yeah.
I'm just like they feel it's being shoved down their throat or something. And I'm like, if if this stuff was only like, you know, I don't know, if it was shortchanged, that's when I would be mad at it because it would be like, well, why are we setting it in this setting if we're not going to explore this culture or these people at all?
Right.
Like, what the fuck is the point of that then? And so
Like, have
that's
you?
why I'm like, I love that there's time for, we get like a 2.5 minute sequence when Danvers goes into, again, the woman who's just had the stillborn baby and that situation. It's like, we just sit in it for a moment There's
Hmm.
no dialogue in that scene. There's like this like very ominous like what sounds like, you know, indigenous like folk singing. I don't know how I would describe that music or
Hmm.
whatever that escalates or whatever. And I'm like, I know there will be people who watch the scene and are like, why is this here? Why is this is interminable? What are we
Well,
doing here? And I'm just like, this is it. I don't know what to
and
tell you. Like this
and
is we're
it's people
character
who
building. We're building out the world, the environment, which is so integral to what makes a good season of True Detective is the place. It's not just what's happening there, it's the place itself. And for me, Ennis is like the most interesting setting we've had since fucking Louisiana. It just is.
because what these people, what you're talking about, like the person you're trying to explain this to, what they don't understand is like you've had this before because you have scenes in the first season where they're just driving through the bayous. They're just talking to people. Well, seems she went to that Tuttle school there, and then they bust all the kids in,
You
and
forget how
we never
much
see.
of that
Yeah.
first season is very Law and Order, very like
Hmm.
I gotta go talk to this guy.
Right. And it's just so happens to be that like you're living in that because like very to me very purposefully we are we are going back to and we are sustainably like or not sustainably we're like succinctly going back to like we're always going to be focused on like these are the victims. Yes, they're all alive. Yes, they may not all be dead, but these are who we're talking about. This entire season is about this because this entire season, the very last shot of every episode is if you are facing domestic violence or violence being committed you against you as a woman, here is a way for you to reach out. You know, that's one thing we haven't spoken about, but like that's the caveat that anchors every episode is the real life thing that's like this happens. You and I live in a state where the best thing, one of the really things you're really good at is men killing and beating women.
Mhm.
You don't like it, don't do it. But the facts are facts. South Carolina has one of the highest rates of men killing women, men beating women, men putting women, like trying to take women down off of their perceived pedestal, you know? So, like, yeah, it's prevalent, whether you want to believe it or not. And it's just one of these things where, like, with that scene of like going in and seeing what that does, that has nothing to do with this case on the surface. This is just a woman who like this happened to her because of the water, which I want to get back to real quick is the water's causing these things to happen to burst. You could totally, if you want to toe that line of it's all real, the Tuttle family, if you want to go there, dude bros, the Tuttle family's putting something in the water through that plant. They own it all. They got a big sprawl, baby. They got the research institution looking for portals, and they're keeping the population docile and not letting them breed again by putting stuff in the water. That's just how it is, you know? Like that's totally how you could toe that line. If you wanted to mind try to keep it real and not tip the scales to like, no, this is totally supernatural. Well, yeah, if you pump small amounts of hallucinogens into the water supply over time, man, people might start thinking she's awake.
People might start seeing some shit.
Exactly.
Yeah. Mass
You put people in,
hallucinations, dude.
and here's the thing. Here's the thing that I don't think we've touched on that I think I love about this the most. You get the great line at the end of season one. It's like, I think the light's winning. The universe's natural state is darkness. You know, if it wasn't for that pesky thing that keeps rising up every morning, we would live like we are living in this show in total darkness. Maybe
Hmm.
there'd be a moon, maybe there wouldn't, but that's our natural state. So you put people in that natural state, having been used to like sunlight and like this certain like, you know, we you know we and incessantly like human beings are better and like we're meant to be in the dark, you know?
Hmm.
Like that's just how it is. It's only because we have the sun that like yeah, we'd have life from that, but like the natural state of the universe and everything is darkness. And that's where we're staying here now. And I think if you stay in darkness long enough, you will go crazy. So it is what it is. But yeah, that birthing sequence thing, we have the whole talking thing, we have the obviously that we have the, you know, Danvers gets taken away. I don't know where we're going from here. Or she gets taken away with like having to arrest people. We have the video of that, and in my head, I really got like, honestly, dude, I got more like Thing vibes. Like this is like a tunnel down into the bigger ship part that we don't
Hmm.
see. You know, I got that kind of vibe. Um, it's always creepy when there's just like somebody's cell phone video and you don't know what's going on with them.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things that's like I can't tell where I'm going, and I'm glad that I can't, you know. And I'm constantly, because of the first season, I'm constantly always looking at like, what am I gonna see here? That when we get to the last episode, I'm gonna be like, aha, here
Hmm.
we are, you know.
Because
And it's
lest we forget, is it is it the end of episode one or is it episode two? Like when we see Errol Childers for the first time. I think it's in the
it's
first episode.
maybe it's either one or two where he's at the school just like
It's near the top. Yeah, but you see him on the
yeah.
tractor, backlit and everything. And it's presented again up to that point as oh, it's right before they get a line on
So that's episode three
Reggie.
then.
Yes, it's episode three.
Yeah,
Um, 100%. Yeah. Uh,
because they're about to have to give up the case, and this is the thing that lets them keep it.
yeah. So, I mean, if you if you're looking for parallels, this was episode three, and as you
Hmm.
pointed out, we did meet a couple of suspicious people out uh
That
on
people
the
that we got pulled away from.
yeah. So,
Yeah,
all right, something to keep an eye on, and I think that's gonna do it
yeah.
for this week of TRUEsDays with Noah and Gav. Thank you for listening, and I think for this week we can go ahead and close up that case file. But we'll be back to reopen it next Tuesday on the ARK of E Network.
Come with me, little priest. I'll take you to Carcosa.
So
You in
I
Carcosa now.
I know you caught it.
Yeah.
The very end of the next on teaser.
Mm-hmm.
Now enter the night country. Just
Yeah.
like we're all in the night country.
That country.
Just
Yeah.
like who's saying that? What is saying that?
Then maybe they find Clark. I don't know, dude.
It's so again, it's so interesting to me that I'm like, I know these same people who are like, it's not season one, are gonna hear a line like that and they're like, you can't, you can't just do that.
Yeah.
You can't just make Night Country a thing now. It's not Carcosa. It's sort of be like, guess what, guys? It's not a real place.
Right. It doesn't exist.
Just you know, just
Yeah.
really interesting. I don't,
It's like this joke I used to make. It's like, hey, what's that one Lovecraft book where like the guy reads that thing and then like he just like goes insane or something? Which
Yeah.
book is that?
It's
Oh, wait,
really,
it's all of them.
it's so. I mean, it is again even more respect to Issa because I'm just like, it is really playing with fire, dude. It's playing with
Mhm.
fire because it's just like you're the people you're trying to hook back in and quote unquote impress with this with the season one references
Mm-hmm.
are the same people who are gonna judge it the harshest. You know what I
Right.
mean? Who
Mm-hmm.
are also gonna be the same people who are gonna be like, oh, I can't believe they're just fucking ripping off season one. And I'm like, but isn't that what you want? Isn't that what you all complained about when season two wasn't exactly the same? Isn't that what, like, it's the same shit we've been through for two prior seasons where you guys are just like, well, it's not the first one. It's not as good as this. It's not as good as that. Like, I've heard that, I'm sorry, heard that comparison from friends and online left and right. It's specifically in reference to the Jodie Foster performance. And I'm like, I'm sorry if we're comparing every fucking protagonist in True Detective to Russ Cole. That's a fucking unfair comparison. That is an
Mm-hmm.
iconic television character of like the modern era, of the golden age of TV, whatever you want to call it. Like, he just is. Like, it was a place and a time. It was the reconnaissance. It was all of those things. we gotta let it go, people. Like we can't compare every like if she's not blowing your mind every single second, it doesn't mean that she's not absolutely crushing it as the Scarab.
Yeah, I mean, second only to this guy.
Who are you showing me? You show pull your camera back.
Kevin Garvey,
Oh, the
the man
greatest
who
cop in
died.
television history?
Yeah. Most interesting man in the world.
And his
And his
identical
brother?
twin brother?
Is
Yeah.
it? Yeah.
Oh man. Maybe the you want to talk about playing with fire?
Oh, dude, what if
Yo Damon, fire fire up the writers' room again. Just be like, I don't think we quite cracked it. One of the to be clear, one of the shows that ended like the most perfect that a show ever could.
Oh
Like
yeah, of
for the
course.
leftovers, like just absolute sheer brilliance. It's in my top five all time. But just yeah, he's like, I don't think we cracked it. I think I fucked it up. Kind of like lost. I'm gonna come back and do season four, and everybody's like,
No,
don't do it.
no. Yeah. No,
Oh,
you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna do a new show. Remember all the people that left? You want to know where they went?
you want to?
I got
And
a
I'm
whole
like,
three
I'm like,
seasons of
oh,
just
wait a
them.
second.
Yep.
Oh,
You
damn
want to
it.
know where they went? And you want to know what they did? Yeah. Okay. Picture the leftovers, but for the people who left, they have to adjust. So, like,
For, for every idiot who can't stand ambiguity comes the what's the opposite of the leftovers? The main course.
right? Yes. Dude, and honestly, dude, when I
Coming to
finished,
HBO 2025. Zaslav, no! No! David, what are you doing?
when I get done with the killing, I'm definitely gonna go and just start the leftovers again.
I did it 2 years ago and I do not regret it. I've already been
Dude,
getting the itch again, but this is the fucking the Sopranos anniversary, baby, and I'm
but
like
didn't you just do that though?
I did
Like
it
you
during the
just did.
I did it during the pandemic.
Yeah.
It's been 2 years, but
Mm.
oh man. No, the one I've really been wanting to do, and
Mary
seriously,
Easttown?
it's top of my list. No, I'm good. I'm good. I love Mare, but it's like it feels too
Dude,
close. It feels too close.
every time
No,
that one pops up, when I'm getting up at the end, I was like, hey, I'm always like, hey Becky, can you do something for me? And she's like, well, I was like, you can stop eating Wawa hoagies over the dead body. Like
you
I
boys
don't know
gotta stop
why.
eating Wawa hoagies over the
Hoagies
dead.
over the dead body. Yeah.
They murdered my dirter in the water.
Murdered.
They murdered my dirter. But for real, no. The one that I've been dying to do because it's been too long. I've never done a proper rewatch. I did a Breaking Bad rewatch a couple years ago, or last year, excuse me. Um, Mad Men is overdue.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I might have to take the whole take the whole ride again. Great new show. I don't know why I'm plugging for The Ringer because, they don't need the advertisement, but I'm just telling this to you on the Prestige TV feed where they're currently covering True Detective.
Hmm.
They have a new like limited series that's running, but new episodes every week. It's called Stick the Landing, and it's one of
Hmm.
those where I was like, God damn it, we should have done this. Like we should have done it. They literally are just going back through like
TV
TV
finales.
TV finale
My
specifically, and
God,
it's
dude.
like, did they nail it or not? They've done Friday Night Lights and Mad Men so far. Those are the
I
two.
can't.
Well,
I've yet to finish Friday Night
that's what
Lights.
I was gonna say is that's the first episode. I know you never but I'm like, whenever you do finally finish that show, start Stick the Landing, and then yeah. But they're starting with like more modern stuff, but I think they are gonna go into like, yeah, we're gonna do the MASH finale, cheer, they'll do sitcoms and stuff as well. It's not just the prestige dramas, but really, really good so far.
Hmm.
Thoroughly enjoying that. So yeah, you should go listen to that, brother. This is like the bonus segment, like it is every week. Hope people enjoyed it. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Happy birthday to Gavin.
Oh yeah, it is my birthday today. Well, is it still? No, technically, it was my
Oh,
birthday when we
yeah.
started. So
We went over
that's
the
fine.
line. I think we went the longest we've
Over the
gone.
line.
Yeah, I think we went the longest we've gone, which I'm sure people will be like, on part three,
Yeah, of
on part
course.
three. And we're like,
Yeah.
fuck yeah. They're just gonna get progressively longer.
Yeah.
I'm sure. Because we got more and more stuff to discuss. Uh, I just, oh my God, dude. Oh, I do want to throw this in for anybody that is still listening at this point. I just want everybody to know that I think you should leave with Tim Robinson has the Kathy Blanchard seal of approval. Brother. So
I have not
when
seen
I
her laugh that long, that
when I
hard in
gave
a
you the
long time.
when you opened your Christmas or your birthday present rather, which was a driving crooner
Yep.
t-shirt, uh, and mom is like, "What is this?" And then we go to I'm like, I guess we just got to show her. Go to
Hmm.
pull up Netflix, have to re-log in. Dude, in my head internally, I'm just like, oh man, nobody's gonna find this funny except for me and Gav. I was like, it's taken like 10 minutes to like reactivate the Netflix on there to even pull this up for them. And then to throw it on, and within the first like minute, for mom to immediately start dying and then to just it escalate,
Hmm.
that was one of the more recent joys of my life. That was great.
My hope
I'm
is that
so glad she found
she
it.
just finds it just like I watched all of them because she'll do that. She'll be like, "Oh, I
She'll
did
just tell
this."
you. Yeah.
Like, I watched all that. I think you should leave show. Like,
If mom starts dropping, I think you should leave references. I'm going to lose my shit.
no, I got your shirt from was it Dan Flowers?
Dan Flashes.
Dan Flashes. I can't want to say flowers. Yeah,
Yeah.
Dan Flashes.
We gotta show her that one, dude. She would love it.
So you should, I'm gonna
What
show her
is it?
sloppy
What is it?
steaks,
The
and
shop? Is it the shops at the Vista or the Hills? What is it
yeah,
called?
I'm gonna show her sloppy steaks and just be like, tell Noah I want one. Just text Noah and tell him next time he cooks, I want a sloppy steak. Just want
She and dude, I mean, like she loves Stephen Yeun. You gotta show her the. Did you use too small a square?
yes, dude.
Why don't you eat the receipt then? If you like the gift, why don't you eat it? I'm the coolest guy here now.
I used to be I used to be a real piece of shit, you know. It's just
All
I
right,
used to
that
be this baby's judging me. Yeah,
we gotta end this.
dude, it's
I'll
so
just say,
funny.
and that's where
We
I'll cut
really
it.
don't know what's going on in we
We really
whatever
know very little.
little.
God,
Oh my God. All
what a
right, brother.
genius. What a genius. All right,
Indeed.
love you.
Love you too.
Stopping the recording.